Welcome to the American Cinematheque online Q&A for I'm Thinking of Ending Things with writer-director Charlie Kaufman. I'm Gwen Diglis, Head of Programming for the American Cinematheque. I'd like to invite you to visit our website, americancinematheque.com, where you'll find the latest information about our screenings and our online conversation. You will also find a clip of a past conversation with Charlie Kaufman on our archive. You will also find how to support the American Cinematheque. I encourage you to become a member and to make a donation. It's greatly appreciated. This conversation with Charlie Kaufman took place on September 12th with Tony Gilroy, also a filmmaker and writer. Thank you and enjoy.
Jake, my boyfriend.
It's snowing.
Winter is coming in.
We have a real connection, a rare and intense attachment. I've never experienced anything like it. I'm thinking of ending things.
Huh?
What?
Did you say something?
I don't think so.
Weird.
I'm visiting Jake's parents for the first time. He hasn't been my boyfriend for very long.
They really are looking forward to meeting you.
I think of ending things.
Hello? We're here.
Oh, hi.
Oh, it's all wet.
Here they come.
Jake has told us so much about you.
He's told me so much about both of you, too.
And you came anyway? Jake tells me you're studying quantum psychics.
Physics.
Really?
But there's just something profoundly wrong
Are
here.
you okay?
Yeah, I think of ending things.
I am so glad Jake has found someone.
Soon this will all be a distant memory. Who's this?
It's me.
No, it was me.
I tell you, I would misplace my own head if it wasn't screwed onto my own head.
I feel like I was seeing them as they were, seeing them as they will be, seeing them after they're gone. I'm thinking of ending.
You can stay here. Excuse me? You don't have to go.
I don't have to go where?
Forward.
People like to think of themselves as points moving through time, but I think it's the opposite. We're stationary, and time passes through us, blowing like cold wind. Maybe this is how it was always going to end.
Am I there, Charlie? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Oh my God, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
Wow, I did this just so I could meet you after all this time. We work with so many we have so many colleagues and so many people, and I've just, I hate doing these things somehow, but it was like, it was worth it. It really was worth it.
Let's go out for a beer and forget this.
I wish we were. I really wish we were. And in the traditional way, we would have had a drink beforehand. Let me just buttress that for a minute and glom for a minute and just make you uncomfortable for a minute, because it's, I think it's really, and I'm going to assume, my assumption will be for the people that are here that they're probably fans already. It's impossible really to be a screenwriter, be a storyteller in the last 20 years and not be, humbled and shaken up and inspired and rattled and amazed by what you've done. It's really it's really important work, and it's really been noted by a wide variety of people, and you know that. We're here to talk about the movie. I want to say one thing. I know you have a big book that just came out as well. And this may freak you out or not, I don't know. I went to buy the book a couple days ago, and I went into the store. I didn't want to interact with anybody, so I went to the counter, and I said, "You didn't have Antkind?" And he goes, "Oh, the Kaufman. So you have achieved singularity."
Did they have it?
Oh my God! But did they have it? I have it right. Yes, they had it. They had it. But that really means something. And I'm still talking. I'm gonna try to avoid talking to you so I don't get embarrassed. I mean, it's something significant. I mean, it really means something what you've done. I mean, the strong flavor of your work. I mean, and you've paid the price for being. For all of the amazing stuff, you've really paid the price for hewing the path and like staying on there, and the people who love Synecdoche, who just like think it's just an epic masterpiece, and watch how hard it is to get things made after that. So a lot of people really know what it really means. We're here to talk about this film today. I'm thinking of ending things. Jesse Buckley, Jesse Plemons, David Thewlis, Tony Collette, Netflix we just saw. I wrote down as the trailer was running, something profoundly wrong is happening here. It's a really disturbing movie. It's ambitious, it's disorienting, it's meticulous, it's confrontational. It's all the things that you've always played with. And it's above all, it's just abundantly imaginative, and that's been that to me is that's the fundamental building block. That's just that's the coin of the realm. And what's to fit, I don't know. I'll glom. I mean, my total respect is that I'm always interested in what you're doing. I always want to know what it is you're doing, and I wouldn't miss anything. So anyway, that's my
Well, thank you.
That's my love letter, and that's why I'm here tonight, and that's why I'll stumble through this thing and be uncomfortable about it, but that's why I'm here. I've always wanted to meet you.
Thank you.
Are you missing the romance of the book tour and going out and doing all the screenings in the airport like a traditional junket? It's kind of for writers. It's kind of like everybody complains about it, but I always liked it. Did you like it?
I mean, I didn't like all of it, but I would have liked some of it. It's weird to have these two things come out and feel nothing. Like I'm basically just sitting in my apartment, occasionally doing these kind of things. So, but there are obviously bigger problems in the world than that. So it's fine.
Yeah, but this is a place to be. There are many things that are different about us, but there are an incredible number of similarities, and we basically spend most of our life in a room.
Yeah,
that's basically what it is. And so, people always complain about junkets. And there have been times I've been exhausted by doing them, but it is a way, particularly, but probably maybe you feel the same way before you started directing, where it was a way of replenishing your contact with the world.
Yeah, directing for me is that.
Directing does that.
I like that. And the thing I miss probably about this, not being in the world with this, is that the opportunity to hang out with the cast was something that I always enjoyed in the past, and I would have enjoyed it this time as well. It was a very stressful shoot, and we didn't have a lot of time with each other, but we all really liked each other a lot, and it would be nice to see them. I've seen them a couple of times, in a little box on my computer when I'm doing these Zoom things, but I haven't seen them in person.
Have you ever seen the film in a theater with an audience?
No, it's never. I think it's played in some place in this country. I don't know if anyone went to see it, but I'm in New York and there are no theaters here now. So
no, I know, but so you will never have. In a retrospective in 5 years or in a thing, you'll be able to see it. But what an unusual thing! What an amazingly.
Yeah, it is. It is. I saw friends and family screenings early on before it was done.
Right.
And those were good. That gave me kind of that made me excited about the movie because there was so much discussion afterwards. And this was before we had any effects in or anything. It just looked like green screen.
Right.
But yeah, not since then.
I'll track a little bit. The preferred way is like you show the movie, you're at a screening and the audience is seeing the movie and you get up and it's no holds barred. In this case, spoilers, what do we talk about? What do we not talk about? I'll tiptoe my way through. You help me out because I don't know what I mean, my assumption is kind of people here are either interested or they've already seen it.
Yeah.
The book, you know, the Ian Reid is the novelist. I read the book. I read it in an odd way. I read like the first half of it, and I was like, wow, I don't know what's going on here. And I watched the film, and then the Carpenter in me went back, and I'm like, okay, now I got to really,
Yeah.
I had to do my work. And I'm just wondering, were the people around you surprised that you said you like this?
People around me, you mean like
Well, because most of our lives is passing. I mean, most of life is passing, right? It's like, oh, I don't want to do this, or please don't, I don't want to read that.
Yeah.
Or so
No,
here
I'm
comes this
going-
book, and it's kind of like, it's not,
I
I read
wasn't
it, I was like, no, this would not catch my fancy, but
I was not sent this book. I found this book.
where?
I don't know. I mean, I think I might have found it on Amazon. I'm not really sure anymore, but I was looking for something that I might be able to get financed. And because I wasn't able to get anything made, and I thought something small and
Right.
something in a genre. And this was both of those things. And I liked the dreaminess of it. So, you know, I found out that it hadn't been optioned, and we went forward with it eventually.
Well, that's
but-
fascinating. So you were just prospecting out there, like
Yeah,
when you clicked on it, were you clicking on it like, oh, this might be a movie, or were you clicking on it like, oh, this might just be something I mean, or maybe there's no difference for us.
No, I mean, everything I was looking at in genre stuff at that point was with an eye toward making it. So this was just another one of those things, although I was interested in it from the description of it.
And then that's kind of risky too, because I mean, I've had a couple times where my wife, I won't even say what the book is, but my wife and son both read this book, and they came down and they were like, we know you like, you hate, but like, you got to read this book. And I like looked at it, and I looked at the premise of it, and I thought, oh my God, this is amazing. And I went and looked, but it was already in business, and it was already down the road, and it was with people I didn't want to be in business with. And
Yeah.
I mean, so how did you, I mean, that's pretty risky. You're going out and just sort of dragging the lake, and you find this book. You don't know if somebody's already got it or not, do you?
Well, then I called my agent, and they
Wow.
research it and find out. And then I spoke to Ian. I spoke to him for a long time. In fact, I think Ian is responsible for this movie happening, because I did start to drag my feet, and Ian kind of kept calling me. He kept saying, you know, so you know, you want to do it? What do you think? I mean, he wasn't being aggressive or obnoxious or anything. He was very interested in it happening, and I had a relationship with him at this point because we chatted on the phone, and I felt, you know, like I kind of should do it. And
Oh my
But-
God, that's so terrifying to me. That's like talking to your wife's lover or something. It's like the last person I want to talk to is the novelist. Like, I don't want to talk to the novelist.
but I think I had to, right?
I
mean,
guess so, yeah.
yeah. It wasn't somebody else's project that I was just coming on to.
Yeah, no.
Anyway, he was a good guy. We went to Iceland together
Well, of course, that's what one does. That's right.
because his sister is married to the president of Iceland. And so he gets to use the presidential guest house, and he invited me, and I went and worked there for a couple of, I don't know, like a week.
So, okay, so this, wow, I mean, I don't know what to do with that. That's fantastic.
It's just a
No,
little.
that's really cool. No, I do the movie. I do the script for that. But so this thing comes along. So my theory would be that that you have all this pending stuff inside of you. I mean, in a way, I see this to me is like the chamber piece of so many things that you've worked on before. Like if Synecdoche is like this massive Mahler frickin', you know, symphony that's just incomprehensibly sprawling, and all the other work, and Anomalisa is just the calibration of disappointments and whatever. This is like a chamber piece that contains a very small version of how we mythologize ourselves and how we tell stories about ourselves and what dreams look like and who's telling the story and who's not. Were you looking for a consciously or unconsciously a host organism, and you saw this and go, oh my God, I can take that? Did you recognize instantly that it was a place you could infect your virus?
No, I didn't, but I think it's just inevitable. I mean, when I first read something, I'm just reading it, but then when I have an eye toward adapting it, I have to figure out how to make it mine. Otherwise, I can't do it. You know, I have to understand what the characters are doing and why they're doing it, and I have to adjust it to make it that.
Yeah, neither one of us have a very good track record with adapting. I mean, I think I don't see any other reason why to do something other than to make it your own, or to say why you're there doing
I think
it.
when I started out, I thought that I should be faithful to the source material. And I think that the stuff that I turned in then wasn't very interesting. And I think I learned probably around the time of adaptation that I need to use it as a device to explore something. So the stuff that comes out, and a lot of this stuff to a certain extent is in Ian's book, or some of it is, but you know, obviously the things I think about have made their way into it, like a virus, recreated it.
You know, if we're saying that there's a spoiler and we're tiptoeing around stuff, I mean, people either already know they need to be looking around a corner in a way. There's a really big decision for the filmmaker here that the novelist makes very, very early. He goes right at it. But it's a really big decision in a movie. I worked on a movie, fixing a movie recently, where there was a big decision like that, and it was about calibrating where you put that. How much time did you spend? I mean, for me, that would be a really big decision about.
It was one of the biggest things that I had to deal with, because I felt like the reveal in this movie was in a movie not going to be effective at this point in history, you know?
Wait, no, explain that. I don't understand. What do you mean? You mean that to have a secret?
Yeah, the reveal at the end of the book was something that I just wanted to sort of like throw away. And I didn't want it to be the thing that became what the movie was about. Rather, I wanted it to be about this character. So I kind of have a lot of clues early on. And I think, you know, well, since I've been reading stuff online, I realized some people can't figure it out even at the end of the movie. But there's a lot of stuff in there that allows you to figure it out, probably on a second viewing maybe. But I put that in there so that wouldn't be what the movie was about. That wouldn't be the thing that you come away with, because it didn't seem all that interesting to me in the context of the film.
I don't know. To me, it is I mean, I don't know. It's my morning after was really in that direction and was really interesting that way. It's kind of like, I wonder, I mean, it's interesting because it's on Netflix, because you could watch it right away again. Is Netflix promoting the idea of watching this film again? Because it's one of the films that really profits from it.
Yeah,
it's not like a magic trick where like, oh, now you're going to see how the knife went in. It's an enhancement. The way that, I don't know if you're a Fight Club fan. I love Fight Club. Yeah. But if you watch Fight Club the second time from Helena Bonham Carter's point of view, it's just the whole movie is transformed. I
love that aspect of Fight Club.
And you watch her performance and you realize, well, how amazing her performance is.
Yeah. It is an extraordinary thing that they did there with that. I'm not saying that the thing within the movie that the movie's about is not interesting. I'm saying that it being the point of the movie was not interesting to me. That you know, the point of this character. Yeah, okay. Just wanted to clarify.
I know what you mean. No, I know what you mean. I know what you mean. My fantasy is that once you got this and that it wrote easily. Is that an accurate fantasy? Some of them write, some of them do, some don't. You can't really tell, but.
I think once I figured out how to deal with that issue and the issue of creating more of a character for Jessie Buckley, I mean, for the young woman, which was a big thing to me. I wanted her to be a fully realized human being within this scenario, and how to do that, and that balancing act. Then it wrote pretty easily, yeah.
Right. High school. I mean, for anyone who hasn't seen it, I mean, high school is at the gravitational center of this, and like, in high school, in our sort of cultural mythology, has become really a circle of hell at this point, really. I mean, isn't it? I mean, that's what it really is. This like, it's this. Did you go to I went to a public school, a Hall Locker public school. In fact, the school that they pulled up to in the snow looks like the school that they built the new building from my school. Did you go to a big public high school?
Yeah, I went to a big public high school. Very big.
Were you in the theater program?
Yeah. High school was okay for me because I I'd always wanted to act, and I did a bunch of it in high school. Junior high school was so bad that, and that kind of sort of, that aspect of my life kind of eased up by high school, by 10th grade.
And what were the shows that you did in high school? Now I really want to know.
Well, so I don't sing, and there's a lot of musicals in high school. But I had smaller parts in some musicals. But in my senior year, the acting teacher picked a play that I could be the lead in, because he liked me. He thought I was good, I guess. And so it was Play It Again, Sam.
Oh my God.
Yeah, so I played Alan Felix, which is the Woody Allen character in Play It Again, Sam, in my senior year in high school, which is amazing for me because I had like every other line in the play, and I'd never done anything that big before. So I was pleased with myself that I was able to get through it.
Wow, that's a stunning thing to me. All right. And what's your origin story with Oklahoma, the musical?
I was in Oklahoma earlier in my life, but I don't sing, so I had a very small speaking part, and I was sort of in the chorus, kind of mouthing so that I didn't ruin the way it sounded. But yeah, so yeah, I knew Oklahoma. One of the
things that was really powerful in watching the film, because I wasn't prepared that this was coming. I had never, for whatever reason, you have these little blank spots. I mean, I have a friend who's never seen Jaws, and so I had never been exposed to Oklahoma in any way, shape, or form. I knew Curly, and I knew corn is the high as the elephant's high. But until 2002, I'd never seen the movie. I'd never seen it. And in 2002, there was a production in New York with Patrick Wilson, I think, playing Curly. And we went, and we came out at the end, and I was stunned at how cruel and horrifying it was with Judd. Malignancy at the center of this thing that I thought was always like a state fair kind of happy-go-lucky thing has this cancer in it. And I was amazed that no one had ever like talked about it before or raised it up. And I was like, and I was also so shocked how blithely, even in the modern, the remake, that they had like let that go. I mean, so when that came on in this, I was like so prepped for that idea to be in here. I got one bone to pick. I will say that in my high school, one thing I say is that we never called them janitors. They were always custodians. And the idea that he would be the custodian of your movie instead of the janitor is more appealing to me, that he would be the custodian.
Why?
Because he's in custody of all that's there in essence. Did you always have Judd and this thing burning? Did that idea resonate with you all the way through?
Yeah. It was, I mean, as soon as I decided, because the book doesn't have that aspect in it, doesn't have the janitor's life in it. And
no.
Yeah, so as soon as I decided that was going to be running parallel to the other story, I was trying to think of things that he could witness at night, and a play rehearsal seemed obvious to me. So then I immediately thought of Oklahoma, and I realized it had all these parallels that I wanted to play with.
Amazing. All right, so the script comes in, and I know you have an amazing relationship. It's with Anthony Bregman, and you go to Netflix, and so how many days did you get to shoot? What do they give you?
24.
24 days.
Yeah. It was a bit of a nightmare.
How much prep?
Not enough. And a part of the prep problem was we didn't have locations that we needed right away. So we lost time. Łukasz Zalonai, the DP, lost time in those places. And then what turns out that the farmhouse had a lot of mold in it, and they weren't letting the crew or the actors in. So we couldn't even go in there to look at it until very close to production.
I know that I read just a little bit that you'd been circling around a bunch of different actors, and did you read the two Jessies together before you put them together? I know that you were juggling. No,
I mean, Jessie Buckley read for it, but she sent a tape in. I basically asked her to recite the poem.
Right.
And she did such a beautiful job with and I just offered the part to Jesse Plemons.
They are just amazing.
Yeah,
I mean,
they're amazing people.
and don't you find it amazing that you like search around and you think you have people and you lose your first choice and you lose your second choice and then years go, whatever, however long it goes. And then you end up with somebody and it's just the moment the person claims the part, they become it. And you don't,
Yeah.
I never ever have any, I never look back. Isn't it amazing that? It's a defense mechanism.
Really and,
yeah. The cinematographer, I mean, Lucas, obviously you saw Cold War and Ida. I'm assuming that you were blown away.
Yes, yeah, definitely. That's why I wanted to meet with him. Yeah.
And I know Molly Hughes. I worked with Molly Hughes. When you bring them in, how early could you bring them in? Do you make them? How early can you make them co-conspirators in what you have to build?
Well, Molly and I did a
production designer, I should say. Sorry.
Yeah, we did a pilot together, and we were friends. So she'd been sort of in on the idea that this was happening for a long time, way before it was even real. So we talked a lot about it. I don't remember how early we got. I think Łukasz was there first, then Molly, then Melissa, who did the costumes, and then they're so integrated, those aspects of this movie, because of all the patterns and stuff that we had to use, or we chose to use. So yeah, we spent a lot of time.
But the erosion of reliability all the way through this film is not just in dialogue or anything else. It's all in camera.
Yeah.
And was that all on the page, or are you guys building that all the way through? People are going, hey, what about this? What about this? What about that?
Łukasz and I talked a lot about how we wanted the camera to be and how we wanted to feel like it was a combination of memory and fantasy. So we made a lot of choices about camera movement that sort of, there's a lot of anticipation in the way.
I know, it's interesting. It's interesting.
Yeah. And the idea there was sort of like, if you're having a fantasy, you know what's going to happen next.
Yeah.
And so we wanted the camera to precede the actual action. And I find it very effective. I think there's a creepiness to it. I don't know if it plays like what we wanted, but I like it. It's dreamy to me.
Well, it's the time version of the Polanski thing, which is what's happening off frame. It's also, you're doing 4:3 and you're like not letting me see, and you're in the car and you're doing singles in the car instead of, there's no two shots. It's like, and after a while, what in the beginning, what feels like an annoyance, or like, I want to see, you realize, oh my God, this is because of something. Yeah. And the intentionality of it comes through. That's what I said. It's really meticulous. I see that. I know that there's just too much to talk about and there's not enough time. I'll try to go to some, I mean, I don't know. I'm sure you've talked about everything under the sun. I'm obsessed with this Pauline Kael part of the movie, man. I like that turn. And then when the book shows up in the guy's home library. And then this morning I went and I looked. There's a very exciting moment in the film, if anyone see, where Jessie Buckley channels, I don't know if she's channeling Pauline Kael or if she's channeling a young woman from the 70s who's memorized Pauline Kael. It doesn't matter.
Right.
But it's a scathing takedown review of Woman Under the Influence that's in there. And I went back this morning and I have a New Yorker thing, so I could go back and find it. And you've probably seen it. It's on it's in a double New Yorker review. She sort of gives a passing okay to Murder on the Orient Express, and then she crushes. And I'm like, what's the scavenger hunt for this idea for you? I mean,
and Tony, after that, I'm gonna go to
the argument was better than I can. I couldn't parse it all out. Are you trying? All right, we'll get one more. This last question. Are you agreeing with Pauline Kael? Are you mocking her for doing this, or what's the?
No, I'm doing neither. I'm dealing with, since I'm dealing with the interior of someone's psyche, and I'm dealing with outside influences and how they change the way you are and the way you think about yourself. I'm dealing with the idea that this guy loved this movie as a young man and then read the Pauline Kael review, and he loves Pauline Kael. And he's decided that he was wrong, that he's an idiot. Like, you know that feeling? Like when...
Well, that's how I felt when I read the review. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh my God, I always liked that movie, but maybe I'm wrong.
But that's exactly what it was. It was like, you know, he's embarrassed. He's embarrassed a whole bunch of times by the things that she says, that the young woman says to him. Like, he just feels like, you know, he's not smart enough to be his own person.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Tony. We're going to go to questions from the audience. We have so many, plenty of questions. So I apologize, we won't be able to take every question, but I'm going to start with the first one. One of our audience members saying, I'm curious, what do you have to say on the subject of sound design? How sounds choices influence an audience sense of reality? And if there's anyone you'd cite as an inspiration in terms of your approach? So sound design.
Well, I mean, you know, it's very important in this particular movie because it is sort of like, it takes place inside someone's head. So we're trying to sort of create this sort of feeling of thoughts coming and going and movement and ideas. And, you know, so we spent a lot of time in post-production working on that, but I don't think, I'm not aware of any influences that I've been affected by in that regard. I'm sure I have been, but nothing is coming to mind. We have a question on why did you shoot this film in the square 4:3 aspect ratio? So Łukasz Zal, who is the DP, wanted to, and that was his preference. And so when we were scouting and we were looking at locations and stuff, he was shooting with a still camera in that aspect ratio, and we would look at it, and we really liked the way it felt. It felt very, it also had to do with the fact that, you know, this is a very claustrophobic movie. It's very focused on what it's focused on. And that has to do with the idea that it's a thought. And if you're thinking something or you're dreaming, the thing that you're focused on is the thing that you see, and the rest of it is just not there. So we were playing with that idea. Netflix didn't want us to use this aspect ratio, so we played with a different one, and we found that it didn't have the same feeling. It didn't have that sort of, that closed claustrophobic feeling. So they allowed us to use this, but this was our first choice.
How much of a role did the storyboards play in the production process? We didn't have storyboards. We did as much shot listing as we could, but we had no storyboards. We really had very little prep time, and we didn't have enough time to even shot list entirely, or even close to that. So, so we had ideas what we wanted to do, and then we tried to implement as many of them as we could in this very, very tight schedule. We have many questions about your collaboration with the cinematographer and the sound designer. Is there anything else you want to say in addition to what you had mentioned earlier?
I think the thing I'd like to say about Łukasz Zal is that I really loved that he was very interested in the story, that he was really affected by it. And that was one of the reasons I decided to go with him, because in addition to his skill as a cinematographer, he also he also was sort of passionate about the ideas within this thing, and I found that that we ended up having a lot of philosophical discussions throughout the process that were very helpful, I think, to both of us in that regard.
So I'm going to jump right into a question about philosophy. There's a question about, you know, do you read philosophy? What are your favorite philosopher?
Yeah, not really. No, not really. I mean, I have read some, but I'm certainly not a student of philosophy.
Talking about casting, do you provide your cast a full understanding of what the script means? And do you have them bring their own perception as you would for the audience?
I have lots of conversations with them about, you know, what I'm thinking here and what I'm hoping for here, but they also contribute to those conversations, and they bring their own point of view to it, and that's very important to me. It's a full collaboration. I mean, I'll answer any questions that they have that I can answer. It's not like I'm dealing with them like they're the audience of the movie and I want to keep it a secret. I mean, you know, they're the people I'm working with. But you know, the basic thing that I think that I provide to the actors so that they can do their work is what the human moment is that they're playing, not some sort of idea, a conceptual idea, but like what's happening between this person and this person at this point. And we spent a lot of time talking about that.
How many visual effect shots were there, considering it isn't a typical visual effect film?
I wish I could remember the number, but there were hundreds and hundreds of them. It was such a nightmare. All of the snow I mean, there's some practical snow that we use, but mostly out the window of the house. And some of that had to be supplemented as well. But all of the snow in the car, all of the car sequences, every shot had to be done.
How is your writing process different when you're adapting a novel versus when you're writing an original script?
You know, it's probably different in that there's a sort of like a bit of a structure that I'm hanging things on, pre-existing structure, as opposed to sort of like going off into the ether, trying to figure things out, I would say. But of course, I've gone off into the ether with my adaptations as well, so maybe that's not even true. Yeah, I kind of know the ending generally, I guess, which I don't know when I'm writing my own work. But I need to make it mine. I try to make it mine. And I think that's important for it to be of any value.
This is the first film that you've written with a female protagonist since Human Nature. How did the female perspective impact your approach to writing the characters, particularly Buckley's character?
How did it? I don't think it did. I mean, I just trying to write the character, but I'm always trying to write the character, and I'm writing character. I mean, I don't know what a female protagonist is, what they mean by that, but I mean, I've written lots of female characters before in lots of movies, you know. I'm just trying to write the character. I'm trying to make them true in any way I can.
Question on your influences. What are your biggest influences as a storyteller?
What are my biggest influences? I guess you mean like other people? I don't know. You know, I feel like I trot out the same people all the time. I mean, I was influenced by Kafka and Beckett and Ionesco and Kurt Vonnegut, Woody Allen, Monty Python, you know, the National Lampoon. I guess, I don't know, probably more, but I mean, those are the things that come to mind.
There's a question from an audience member asking, do you remember your dreams?
Yeah, I do. I have very vivid dreams. I remember them for a while, and if I don't talk about them and write them down, I won't remember them. But yeah, I dream. I have intense dreams, and almost every night. And they're very important to me because I use them in my work. You know, they're visual ideas. They're symbolic ideas. The way dreams tell stories is very interesting to me, and I try to take note of it.
Can you talk a bit more about that in relationship to I'm thinking of handing things? Is there a specific moment that you can point to some of your dreams?
No, I don't think that there's anything in particular in this movie. It's the way it's edited has a lot, there's a lot of dreaminess to that, the way things move, the way things are suddenly somewhere else, you know, characters are somewhere else. The way people change is a very dreamy idea to me. You know, the way that the people are at different ages is dreamy. The imagery, you know, the place that the Tulsi Town ice cream stand in the middle of nowhere, all of that is kind of, it feels like dreams to me.
Do you have a favorite moment in the book that you did not include in the film or in your script?
I think that maybe there are some moments in the book where, which kind of refer to the main character's childhood, and there's somebody looking in the window at her, which is an image that I thought would be a really good image. But since we didn't have those kind of like flashback moments in the thing, I couldn't use it.
What do clowns mean to you, and what's fascinating about them?
I guess this is this like an Aunt Kind question, because there's a clown in that. I don't know if they're fascinating to me. I'm not sure that they are. I thought that was you know, like I was at a point in that book where there was suddenly a clown in it because he was selling clown shoes at a convention, and there was a woman dressed as a clown selling clown makeup in the next booth. So suddenly she became a character, and that took her through the book. I mean, I don't feel like clowns are a thing for me. I mean, I like them, they're interesting, and they can be creepy, but it's not like a major obsession of mine.
Do you think your writing has made you a better person, as being honest with yourself on the page made you overcome any problems or insecurity that you express in your screenplays?
Not really, although I will say, and I've told this story before, so I apologize if it's boring, that I wrote, in adaptation, I wrote, you know, a character who is kind of based on me, and he has a meeting with a film executive, and he's sweating a lot. He sweats, and he's very self-conscious about it, and he's trying to wipe his brow when she's not looking. And that was me. I had that problem. I would just find myself in meetings, and I would feel like a droplet of sweat dripping down my forehead, and it just was really embarrassing to me. But the interesting thing that happened was, after that movie came out and it was revealed, it didn't happen to me anymore. So that was not an intentional thing. It was just a side effect that I found kind of psychologically interesting. It's like, once I didn't have to hide the fact that I sweat, I'd stop sweating. So that's my answer to that question.
Do you recall a specific turning point when you decided you wanted to be a writer, or was it more of a gradual process?
I originally wanted to be an actor when I was a kid, but I also, because of that, I had a Super 8 camera. I made films, and I wrote stuff for myself, and plays and movies and stuff. And I ended up going to film school, I think with the eye toward being a director, which I think probably everybody goes to film school, that's what they plan on. But I had the idea that I would write and direct my own movies. So, you know, so it was as early as my teen years. I guess I was interested in writing, although as part of another career, part of a filmmaking career, or a theater career, or a playwriting career.
We haven't talked about the editing process. Is there anything that really changed drastically in the editing process? Or, yeah, So go
No, not really. I mean, of course, everything changes all the time when you're editing, but it wasn't like we were moving stuff around a lot. But we were trying to find rhythms, and we were trying to find ways to present, like I said earlier, this sort of like movement of things where it felt kind of put you off balance. You know, I would say that was, I mean, the one thing that I can think of off the top of my head is that the opening of the wallpaper was not originally the opening of the movie. That was something that we put in the process of editing. But generally, I mean, you know, it was as it was written, and just finessed with Rob Frazen, who I've worked with several times now.
We haven't talked much about the cast, and you have amazing performance in the film. Do you want to talk a bit about working with the actors, choosing them, and the process of directing the actors?
Sure. I'm not sure exactly what to say. I mean, Jesse and Jesse were I cast two other people who fell out of the production, and Jesse and Jesse came after that. David Thewlis, I asked as soon as it was going to happen. I knew it was going to happen. I asked him if he wanted to do it because I knew him. What happened with Jessie Buckley was that I had another actress who had signed on, and she dropped out, and I was looking for somebody else. And I spoke to my production designer, Molly Hughes, on the phone, who happened to be in London, working with a director on a film there. And she asked this director, who, you know, do you have any recommendations? And she said he has to cast Jessie Buckley. And I didn't know who Jessie Buckley was. So I got a copy of the movie Beast, which I think was probably the biggest thing that she had done at that point. And I was just blown away by her performance and a little bit scared of her because she was a kind of a scary character in that. You know, I loved it. I loved it and I loved her, and I was excited about the idea of somebody I didn't know. That always sort of pleases me, you know? So we sent her the poem to read. She was in London, I think, or maybe she was in Ireland at the time, and put herself on tape with that. And she sent it back the next day, completely memorized. So it seemed really beautiful reading. We had sent it to other actresses as well. So I had a few people to look at, and all of them were really good, but Jessie's just spoke to me. And so that's why I cast her. When the actor fell out who was going to play Jake, I immediately thought of Jesse Plemons, because I always loved Jesse Plemons, and there's just a kind of like an honesty and a quiet interiority to him that I thought would be really, really good for Jake. And so I just asked him if he would do it, and he said yes. And yeah, and Toni I've known about, I mean, since Muriel's wedding, and always amazed by her in every way. So I asked her. And working with them is easy. They're good at what they do, and they don't need me. You know, we did some rehearsing. We talk about what's going on in this scene at various moments, and they have questions, and I try to give them answers, and then they go way beyond anything I could say. So that's my tip, is hire good people and hire nice people, which is another thing that I always try to do. And because mean people scare me, and I don't want to have to deal with that, because there's so much you have to deal with on a movie set anyway, that I don't want to have to deal with that kind of personality. So I always try to find background on these people, how they are as human beings. And I've had really good luck so far in only casting decent people.
Talking about luck, we are lucky to have you today for this conversation.
Oh,
It's a
thank
beautiful conversation. Can't wait to welcome you again at the theater, but in the meantime, here we are online. Everyone, please watch again if you have already seen it, or watch it if you have not, and thinking of adding things. Mr. Kaufman, we hope to welcome you at the theater again. And Toni, thank you for the conversation. To the audience, thank you for zooming in.